her big sister, singer-actress Idina Menzel. And they are here tonight. They are here tonight to discuss Cara's brand new book, Voice Lessons. They are joined by best-selling author and Broadway vet Tom Santo-Pedro. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Cara Mentzel.
I think with all the events I've done like this, that's the most raucous welcome. So that was great. I have so much I want to talk about. This is a terrific book you've written, and everybody who will hopefully be buying this will find that out. It's really great. And my first question always when I do these things is, I try to figure out what the starting point was for the book, what the impetus was to write it, and why now. And so you have a sentence right near the beginning of the book. I'm going to read to you, and I want your comment. Okay. Cara, you write, "My sister and I shared love, but we haven't often shared our lives. I've wished we did."
You picked a doozy. Thanks, Tom.
But it's on page 4.
And answer that in respect to the impetus for the book.
Yeah.
Well, Dee and I talked about a writing project, and we felt like sisterhood was a really meaningful subject to tackle. I like the aspect of talking about the universal components of relationships and sisters, and then the added element of, stardom, fame, and, Broadway openings and that whole piece.
Yeah.
I liked being able to tell a story that involved both. In terms of that sentence, I think that part of what was interesting about me writing the memoir versus Dee writing the memoir is that my perspective is unique. So you get to see, you get to learn about Dee through my eyes, and then also obviously to learn about me. And then, oh, I feel like people have read a lot already. Just thinking about some stuff I've published in that. So that's been a really, I guess it's a really important sentence because it shows just how much we love each other, how much we're connected, but how difficult as you become adults and you move into your separate lives, how difficult it can be to stay in each other's everyday lives. And that's always been a desire. And then when you have a sister who's famous, so you can go on the internet on any day and type her name in and figure out where she is and what she's doing.
But you can't find her, you won't return your calls.
But you
She's caught up in her own life. Annoying.
She said that.
So it occurs to me just listening to you now, with the actual process of writing the book, at what point, Idina, did you see any of the book? Was it in pieces throughout, or was it at the end?
Well, for years, Cara's been sending me essays, if you will, of just memories she has, or an account of something that happened in her life and sort of what she took away from it. And she just write it or email to me and send it to her parents or something. And it would always just bring tears to my eyes and make me laugh out loud. And I thought what an amazing writer my sister had become. So there's a lot of those things that still kind of are in the book. And then of course through the years she's been honing them and everything. And we wanted it to be as truthful and as honest as we could. The fun about doing something like that is that you find that you each have your own perspective on how something went down. You know? And you're like, is that how I said that? I don't remember. So that was fun. That was heartbreaking sometimes. That was enlightening. But yeah, all along the way, she checked in with me. I wanted to give her her own creative freedom and not. It's funny. It's like life imitating art. It's this constant thing. That was the only loophole or catch with this book, is that I want her to have it. I want it to be a celebration of her and her talent and who she is. And yet she still had part of the book was connecting into me. And so there's a balance there. It's difficult and tricky to figure out.
But I think you judged the balance really well. It's even with whatever you're saying, the bond always shows through, which I think is what makes the book work. And so you have a little bit further along. You wrote one sentence that definitely raised my eyebrows, but in a good way.
Trying to guess.
No, this in a really good way. And your sentence was, talking about your sister, you wrote, I always wanted to be the center of her attention. You didn't say, I want to be the center of attention. You say, I wanted to be the center of her attention. And you felt that from starting as a really little girl. There's how many years between you?
A little over 3.
Idina being the big sister.
I mean, isn't that inherent in a lot of relationships, sibling relationships, right? But I guess having, I don't want to see this what happens in the interviews, and I start taking over the interview. And
I totally forgot the question.
I wanted to be the center of her attention.
Yes. So much I love being the center of attention. Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, I mean, just imagine you look up to older brothers and sisters naturally, right? And then imagine that your older brother or sister is Idina Menzel. And I know that you know her as that, but there are all these other lovely, wonderful, amazing things about my sister that would make me look up to her. Hopefully I tackled some of that in the book. So yeah, but when you're little, you're always watching, always looking up. You know, to see what she's doing. Can I emulate that? Can I be like that? Am I like her? If I'm not like her, what am I like? You know, this whole thing. And wanting her to look my way too. And I think she does, but you know, when you're little, your perspective is usually, you know, the other way around.
Right. Yeah. One thing you write about that was very illustrative, I think, of your personalities is that you write, talking about Dina and going into performing, and you write, Dina was willing to face repeated rejection, something that would be unbearable for me. So I guess I'll start with, Dina, well, the first thing is, do you have any concept of at what age you realized, hey, I have a pretty good voice, I'm gonna pursue this, I'm willing to put up with the rejection? Were you really little? Were you a teenager?
Yeah, no, little, like 2nd grade or something.
Okay.
I went to some place in the Catskills, like all good Jewish families do. 70s and 80s. And I sang some, it was The Way We Were, or something, and all the people, oh my God. So my parents put me into, got me voice lessons immediately, and yeah, and then there was always people paid attention, and
Right.
and I, growing up, it's funny, voice lessons is not just about my sister finding her voice, but I've had to find my voice in a sort of the alternative way, in that my complete identity was based on my voice. And so as I've gotten older, been in the limelight, in the public eye, been sick, missed some really, did a bad performance, had somebody write a bad review. And my whole, everything about me is invested, comes from how I do as a singer, and where do I begin to start, and that everything isn't about singing and the notes, and that who am I if I'm not a singer? I'm a lot of things, and I learned that through Cara's book as well.
I think, just to add on to that, I think that that's one of the neat things about our lives and what I was able to chronicle in the book is that I started out, I went straight into family and motherhood, and she went straight into her career. And as my kids are growing up and out of the house, and Dee's got a younger one at home, we've sort of moved in opposite directions, and I have my book, and the empty nest is almost here, and Dee has motherhood and all that stuff, and so it's interesting that it makes sense.
Yeah. Which is why the title is so great, because it works on a couple of levels at one time, which is what's so nice. It works for both of you.
Yeah. And to be honest, it came from a moment that I thought was this brilliant moment, and then the next day I was like, oh, it's not really that brilliant. But I was like, maybe I should finally take voice lessons. I'll do that, and then I'll journal about each lesson and tell my stories as part of those voice lessons or something. And I was excited about it, and then I thought, oh, I'll call it voice lessons. That's great. That's a metaphor. And the next day I was like, I don't want to take voice lessons. That's not my thing. And that's okay. So anyway, the title stuck, but I didn't need to take 16 voice lessons or whatever.
Although I do have several more of the emotional questions, we'll call them, you have to share with everybody. I want to jump ahead to the story in the book that it was such a great feeling that made me laugh out loud, which is always, we all love that feeling. And so I want you to tell a little bit about teaching your class in Colorado and pennies. It's great.
It was my first month of teaching, and this is nothing compared to, and Kathy being in Hoda this morning, was nothing compared to facing a class of 33rd graders for the first time as a teacher. And I had 2 little ones at home, so I also was on very little sleep. But it was about the 3rd week into the school year, and I was teaching a lesson on math. And in my classroom walks the superintendent of schools, a board member, and my principal at the time. And they're just gonna observe me, just a casual drop in from the Gestapo or whatever. And so I immediately got petrified, and then I think I posed the question, how many pennies in a dollar? And I call on this little girl who always puts her hand right up, and I always forget, she never knows the answer. She's the opposite of most of us. We're I'm not sure I have it right, so I'm not gonna raise my hand. She's like, I don't care. And I called on her, and she's like, and Joe next to her is jumping out of the seat, and I'm watching these people are waiting, and I really want to jump in and call on somebody else, but I've just gotten out of school, teaching school, and I know that wait time is the most important thing. You don't want to rush their thinking. You're supposed to give them ample time to process, and God forbid I cut her off in front of these 3 people. So I wait an insanely long time before I finally call on the guy next to her, and he says, 100 pennies in a dollar, and I say, yes, 100 pennies in a dollar, and I place a plastic penny on her desk, and I look up, and they're all gone. And I was like, oh my gosh, they stood there this whole time. And I like taught nothing. She was just sitting there. And then I turn around and glaring at me from my board is the word penis. In the nicest elementary school handwriting. Very clearly was like trying to write really well. Clearly. And just forgot a couple letters. I didn't. I'll also tell you I was single at the time, so
I was just going to say that I had an aha moment with my sister because I was aware that for a long time she was struggling to figure out her passion, really, and that can be. And so she, what?
she just started to talk about my passion after
It's not
that.
penis. I just got married. I have penis. So, got back on my honeymoon. So, back to the story. Anyway, no, I was aware of that, that I knew what I wanted to do my whole life, and that can be really daunting for other people. They're just trying to just figure it out. What am I good at? What is my thing? Having passion, And she, she was always so smart and so great at school, but she just tried a bunch of different paths. And then I went to visit her at Colorado at CU, and she was a TA. And what was it again? The biological, what's
Biopsych, yeah.
biopsych, sitting in the back watching, but she was teaching class in front of all of these college students, which I thought was the most intimidating thing ever. And she was just amazing. She just had this presence and this strength up there. She was so poised, and I thought if she only knew, first of all, how great she is on this stage. But also that was a thing, and that I just wouldn't leave her alone. I kept saying, teaching. So it's, and now of course, writing is a passion. Well, always was a passion, but I'm just so glad she found these things.
That's a perfect segue into my next question. Because I think one of the things I really liked about the book was that you're really telling the journey of your sisterhood throughout both of your lives. I mean, you start when you're a little girl, and that it's very clear on every page that the love was always there. But as all of us know with siblings, it's never a perfect relationship. We all have ups and downs. And so what you wrote, and I was hoping that you could both comment on this, is, Cara, you wrote, I realized that I was more comfortable with her when I was a member of her audience than when I was next to her, just the two of us.
Well, shit.
But see, this is going to make people want to read the book, because that's a really interesting sentence.
It is.
Yeah, universal.
I think that we all have those moments with people that we love, but when we, different relationships bring out different aspects of who we are, and for whatever reason, I was anxious around my sister. I always wanted to please her. I always wanted her approval. And so it is easier. I mean, we all know from watching it, that was during Wicked, I think I say that I was watching her as Elphaba, and at that point I was going through a difficult divorce, and she was singing, about being unlimited, and then she was singing, no one's ever gonna bring me down, and and I just, it was so powerful for me as a member of her audience, and I didn't have to worry about what she was thinking of me, or what she wanted for me, or any of those things. I just got to enjoy being her sister, and that's it's kind of a gift. I never really thought of it, but it's a gift to be able to have a relationship with someone sometimes that's completely you just enjoying.
But it's less intimate, obviously, which is probably why we've got whatever we were experiencing with each other at the time, to find ways to not have to confront each other and really talk about what stuff's going on, what isn't going on. So it was a way to keep us connected. But when I hear that, I feel badly, obviously, but I know my tendency as well is to recede, to escape when I don't want to confront something and something makes me feel sad. So, and it's easy to use those exciting moments in my career as ways to bring my entire family together, and we're here, and look, it's this incredible, and dreams are coming true, and you knew me when, and yet to really sit down and like, what's going on in your life? And yeah, I'm not happy. No, I'm not happy. And talk about the real stuff. It's not stuff we always want to do. So it's actually a way to hide. I think we put ourselves out there. We're vulnerable, but we can hide a lot behind characters.
Right. Well, I think that's why the book works, is because you really write about you're giving the full picture. You're not saying it's all hearts and roses all the time, but the bond was clearly there from when you were this high, and as we can all see on the stage tonight, it's definitely still here. I know people in the audience will have questions, but I think I have one more I had to sneak in.
Is it a quote? I got myself in trouble.
Well, this is a sentence near the end of the book, but it's, Cara, you're writing about Idina, but I want to have Idina comment on this. This is good. This is career stuff, but right of what you were saying, Cara. Okay, there it is. Dee loved Elsa. She always gravitated toward the misunderstood, powerful female characters.
I either gravitated to them or they found me. I'm not really sure. It's a little bit of the chicken and the egg, because I don't know if that's sort of something I need to work on in my own life, and so that's somehow the universe's way of sending me these gifts of these incredible women characters to teach me something through their words and their song. Or am I putting something out there that's attracting that? It's probably a little bit of both,
Yeah.
What were you trying to get at there?
I think I got my answer that I wanted. You just gave it to me. And didn't your sister have a sharp insight into that? So it's great. Yeah.
Well, we all put out this. We all have different persona, don't we? We're all different with different people. Different people in our lives bring out different parts of our personalities, and certainly in this business we can feel misunderstood because people they act like they know us, but they don't really know us. And I mean, this is getting off the topic with Cara, but it's just as far as women go, it's kind of timely, we how did I want to say it? You don't want to be afraid of your own anger, and your own power, and often as women we are. So I felt like, having come from my dad's here tonight, a loud-mouthed Long Island Jewish family, that we knew how to express our feelings in loud ways. But then we've gotten older, it was important to me that people didn't just see me as someone that had this big voice and anger and loudness, and that I was kind and generous and that kind of stuff, kind of like my sister was. So that's where I feel misunderstood, and where all of these characters have been gifts, because they really ask people to look at all of us deeper and not just judge our book by our cover. A book by its cover. Horrible metaphor.
I think it's safe to judge ours.
Yeah. We'll take some questions from the audience, but I just want to end by saying that it's Cara, you've done a great job with this book because it's so honest, but it's also extremely well written, and I think everybody here is going to really enjoy this because it's the story, your story and your sister's story, but you're touching on universal themes, so well done.
I just want to thank her while she's sitting here because talk about generosity and kindness. Like, you know, she let me write pretty much whatever I wanted to write. You know, the thing about memory is you can't control what you remember. Well, maybe you can if you're studying for tests, you can try. But you don't control what you remember. So the memories that I wrote about were the things that stuck with me for whatever reason. So she had to sit and let me write a book that had to do with her, but that was made of mostly my memories. And that's a really vulnerable place to be. And she trusted me. So it's a huge, huge thank you.
So we'll take some questions from the audience and over in the back row. Yeah.
Yes, Cara, as a teacher, it's like I'm sure most of your students have either been fans of Frozen or fans of Rent. I'm just curious to know if that's ever caused like any strange moments or any anecdotes or...
You know, initially I was all Frozen and they were like, what? You know, but then it took like 2 months and then it was the other way around. I was like, oh, Frozen, and they were like, that's Elsa's sister. Menzel is Anna. And then a lot of kindergartners were really confused how an animated character could be, you know, a person and she's dark hair. The whole thing was really confusing this year.
Yes, right there.
It's not a question, it's more of a thank you. Thank you for this book. My little bit personal, my sister and I have been apart over the past couple of months. And reading the book today, I want to go for a caller. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, in the front row.
So it's kind of twofold. Number one, a segue to what you were just saying about being vulnerable, writing from your perspective. Did it bring up anything that you thought was resolved, and then you were like, oh, well, we still have to work through that? And two, if I may ask you one big music question, what's your favorite vocal warm-up? Just
So, yeah, and if you can repeat the question, Cara, and then Idina.
I feel like the one you directed at her is easier. Can you repeat it one more time?
So was there anything talking about vulnerability?
Unresolved.
Yeah, that's unresolved.
You know, I've done a lot of therapy in my life, and I feel like if you dig back into something, it's always there. So I don't think I've ever written off any of my issues as, oh, done. Solved that one. The minute you do that, it's like right back around. So wouldn't want to jinx myself. But I did. I mean, I dove pretty deep into a lot of things. And most of those things I would write about over long periods of time. So I'd write about them one day and then wait a month and then revisit it until it really felt true. It was important to me to feel like I was discovering those realizations and having this process on the page with the reader and not separately and then trying to describe it to you, you know. But yeah, I mean, the stuff that comes across pretty potent is because that's what's there. Yeah.
Me? Oh, I don't know. I have to say
same boring warm-up, just 30 minutes, been with the same teacher forever, and I like to do it in a nice steamy shower. And on tour, you can't always find a good shower, so that sucks. Good sleep, and there's like 20 different exercises, and they're all fun when I feel good, and they're all horrible when I'm about to get my period or I have a cold. Sorry.
Idina, you need to come out of your
TMI.
shower.
Tom is Prince.
That caught me out of left field. Let's see. Who else?
I haven't been to one of my concerts.
I listened to the duet yesterday, and I was just amazed at how similar your voices were together, and I was just wondering if, well, mannerisms too, but is that something that you would consider putting on your album in the future, because it was so
I'm shaking my head no, but not because it wasn't fun. It was definitely fun. But because it's not that something has to be my thing and her thing. I don't think there needs to be ownership over it, but, you know, it's not my thing.
But our mannerisms, I notice it when I watch myself, and which I rarely like to do, but when I've seen myself in a film or TV or something, I feel like I'm watching her, which is always interesting. Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's my sister.
Let's see. Yes, in the brown jersey.
Hi. So you talk about a lot of memories in your book. What's your favorite memory together that you haven't mentioned in your book?
Well, there's a reason why it's not.
I'm looking at my editor over there.
We put it all on the page, honestly. I mean, there's a few things which just maybe inappropriate for a 12-year-old Elsa rereading, so we'll talk about that in private. Is there anything?
I'm trying to think.
Favorite memory? I mean, if it's favorite, then we put it in there.
Yeah. I put a lot in there. I don't know. No, I mean, I think one of our favorites is karaoke together, but that's definitely in there.
The Dick Jack on the gay cruise. It's all in the book, though. Yeah. I know we'll have to make a new one. You know?
I think we have time for one more question. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whose laugh came first? Talking about mannerisms.
Whose
You guys
laugh?
have the exact same laugh.
I don't know.
She was born first, so it might have been her. Don't know.
I have no idea. I'm trying not to laugh now. Judge it.
I definitely laughed just a little too loud, and I have embarrassed my teenage son.
She doesn't snort before, right?
I
Anybody else? One more question.
Over here. Oh, on that side. Yeah.
Hi, I was wondering if you guys have, both of you, any advice to someone who's both been a writer for her whole life and is aspiring to be on Broadway?
just the fact that you're asking me for any advice is cause for my sigh. I think that what I know for me, this is gonna sound so corny. Writing really is its own reward, you know. So I finished this book almost a year ago today, and I had my own little private celebratory moment before it went for further edits, before a lot of people read it. I kind of had this private personal moment with myself. This is my accomplishment before anything, you know, anybody else gets to say anything about it. And that the process, as difficult as it was really its own reward. And if I had worried all the time about my audience and my reader, I would never have been able to get the truth out there. At the same time, if I wasn't thinking about my audience and my reader, I might have made different. There's a balance there, and I think truth always comes first. And then, of course, there's memoir. You're like, well, whose truth? But so if you're aspiring, I would just say write for the sake of writing.
And I would say, just know that who you are is enough, and that it might not always get you the job right away, but at some point it will be the right fit as long as you stay true to you and makes you really unique and different, because eventually that's the thing that supersedes everything. It just takes a minute because it's unique. But not to copy anybody, to emulate and be inspired by and influenced by all the greatest people you want to read and listen to and sing along with. But at some point, all of that you'll be a sponge, and then what comes out is uniquely you, and you should know that, and the right time will come.
That's a perfect way to end. I like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cara Mentzel, Idina Menzel.
Thank you, Tom.
We thank you so much for coming out. We're going to kindly ask you to remain seated. We're going to get Cara and Idina situated right up here on the stage. We're going to start row by row, section by section. We thank you in advance for your patience and cooperation. We'll be with you momentarily. Thank you again for coming out. Again, in terms of pictures, please, if you have your cameras, have it open and ready. Greg is going to be up here and he's going to take a quick shot. Or you can take one from the line. We're not going to be able to have any post photos or selfies. Thank you again for your cooperation.
My favorite line of the night was, it's been a while since I went down. I know. That's right.
Set up for sign.